Hi, this is Privateer Station, and today we are bringing you day 194 of Ukraine War Chronicles, a conversation between Olexiy Arestovych, advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, and Mark Feygin, Russian opposition journalist. Enjoy. Dear friends, glad to see you all on Feygin Live. It is Monday, September 5th, a few minutes past 10 in Kiev. I apologize for us starting late. We had some technical difficulties. Day 194, we're starting our daily Ukraine War Chronicles with Olexiy Arestovich. Glad to have you here with us, Olexiy. Good evening. It looks like he's in some field situation, so we'll have to try to have a mobile version of our stream. Apologies if there'll be any technical difficulties today. We have over 200,000 watching us live. Over 10,000 click the like button. Please subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovich, and to the Privateer Station if you are listening, watching that in English. So, despite you warned us that perhaps you might be late today, we still wanted to talk because a lot of things are happening and we do want to address them. We are opening the map and await your commentary about what is going on the south. We heard a note that Vysokopolye, a village up towards the middle of the map, is taken by Ukraine military. Yes, Vysokopolye is taken. Potemkino was already ours, and now Russians are trying to keep Petrovskaya, but we'll see what happens. We got some prisoners there. They are from Donetsk, so-called People's Republic. Attention, where Donetsk is and where the front is in the south. That's where supposedly they are defending their interests, right? As far as I can say, we at least captured 10, because that's what the open media says. But what we've seen in the videos released, at least 10 people. And usually any offensive includes prisoners. And that's good. That's good for us. We'll have more people to exchange for our troops that are still held by Russians. Of course, I cannot comment too much about the goals and targets of that operation. So we are working according to do no harm principle. As far as I know, we took 3 more villages. Is there any movement we can measure the offensive in? Mark, this is not the stage of operation where we measure kilometers. That is not too important at the moment. We are taking easier positions to attack their logistics and warehouses and ammo, and more convenient locations to isolate the war theater for us. And Natalia Gumenyuk, I think she was the one who said it today, so I can use that number. In the operative encirclement or cut off from the big land, so to say, there are at least 20,000 troops of the Russian military, and they're trying to rebuild bridges, to supply some with pontoons, which we are destroying in rapid succession. Another sign of how difficult, how dire situation is with pontoons or bridges is they prohibited locals from using it at a threat of getting shot. Why are they doing that? Well, I think they're afraid that locals might help us target the locations, so... And also they're trying to do everything real fast. They understand that their windows are usually tight, so they deploy vehicles, deploy pontoon bridge, and they want to make everything cross the river and disappear in the shortest time frame without getting hit. And they have no time to explain to old grannies and locals that this bridge is busy, this is not for them. So they just don't let anyone. See, when a very big system starts to move, the initial few seconds seem to be very slow. And right now, imagine that big ball, big metallic ball on top of a big hill. It was pushed and it starts to roll slowly, slowly, slowly. But eventually it'll be very rapid roll down. And I think in 2-3, let me guess, 2-3 weeks, yeah, 2-3, maybe up to 4 weeks, it will become really heated down there because the tempo they're using, the tempos of use of their ammo exceed their capability to supply, although they are trying to send everything they can. Self-propelled barges, pontoons, all kinds of boats, inflated inflatables, whatever else they use to cross the river and to send the equipment and the ammo, but this is still capillary compared to what they need. They need about 4,000 tons of ammo per day to survive and successfully defend their positions. And how much are they getting? I don't think they're getting more than 1,000. So that at best they can supply themselves maybe at the 30% of demand. And that combination of the pressure on the ground that forces them to use their resources and also our long-range artillery and precision strikes, that creates a difficult situation for them. And also the waste of their fighters. In the first 4 days of this operation, we counted at least 1,500 dead. So after that, there have been 2 more days. So that is growing, that these numbers keep growing. And then, as we talked before, the changes accumulate gradually, but realize rapidly, and at some point it'll start crumbling down. And then there'll be cauldrons, prisoners, and all that. That's what happens at war. And what is happening on the east? The question is, understanding how that situation unfolds on the south, on the right bank, one can think that maybe they're using it, perhaps realizing that Ukraine is stronger in the south, perhaps they can increase their offensive potential in the east. And also we talked that Putin put that another decree to get to the borders of Donetsk region, which is still not achieved. Is there any intensification on the east? How would I say? They could and should probably, but the interesting part is that on the east we're also conducting counteroffensive. Which areas? Well, that was not publicly announced yet, so I should not be, but it's to the north east from Kramatorsk and Slaviansk. This is, remember when they were saying that they got a certain village very successfully, and they announced that. So now that village is being taken back. And our military are aware, they're aware too, but since it was not officially announced, I'm not releasing that name here. And some things are happening in the so-called Izium area, where they have other issues, and we're plunging into their side of the front there. What is Russian command do there? They actually concentrate their troops down south, near Melitopol, on the line Tokmak-Melitopol entrance to Crimea. I have a feeling that a little more, and they'll start barricading the entrance to Crimea Peninsula. So they're fortifying Crimea logistics route. Yeah, they're really afraid that we might hit Melitopol, because that may collapse the whole front from Kherson to Mariupol. On this map, this is at about 3 o'clock, green tent with an airplane. So, unfortunately, they have no much resources to supply in some parts, and yeah, especially on the right bank of Kherson, and that reminds of an old joke that was devised back in USSR times when machine gunner says, "I have no more ammo. I'm out of ammo," and Politruk comes to her and says, "Well, you're a communist, right?" And the machine gun starts firing again. So that's kind of what they're trying to do now. Russian army is actually very interesting. They kind of have the highest definition of military courage. They don't give a damn shit about terrain or other things or map or any physical barriers. They're like Kant's thing, a thing in itself. They don't care what the enemy does. Doesn't seem to matter for them. They always attack straightforward, just like it looks on the map. That's where the arrow goes, and there is some kind of greatness into that because it sort of works when you have 20 artillery to one of the defender. Then yeah, that definitely works because you don't really know where to defend yourself. But whenever that changes, whenever that ratio becomes 10 to 1 or 10 to 5, that style of fighting wars become less feasible. And I think that'll be the thing that'll eventually be there unraveling. We have over 300,000 people watching us, over 20,000 click the like button. Usual ask, please share links to the stream on your social media, subscribe to our channels, and to the privateer station if you have not done that yet. Another question. So, in general, can we characterize additional successes in MLRS or long-range hits or any updates there? Mark, we have that about 10 hits per day. I'm not even counting it these days. It has become regular. So, okay, but do they react to that? Do they withdraw? Yeah, they did react. A part of their command outposts maneuvered back deeper away from the front line, and they're trying to hide themselves there. So, it takes us additional intel work to discover them, but we will. And they're trying to also bring ammo in a different style somewhat, but we're still hitting them, we're still finding them. And their problem is you cannot move tens of tons of ammo without getting noticed. Plus, this is our land, we know it. We know our roads, we know how to get where. And partisans are working. Almost spilled about partisans here. So yeah, we have all kinds of intel collection. And actually, on Zaporizhzhia and Melitopol direction, we are hitting them, not with less vigor than Kherson, and it started roughly at about the same as Kherson front on the 29th. And remember, we shelled an airport in Melitopol direction about the same day, the 29th. And there were some hits on Takmak and others. And Donetsk were also reaching out to their juicy targets in the Donetsk region. I can't even say that there is any direction on the front where we're not getting them. We are. But probably hottest directions in regards to long-range artillery is Kherson and Melitopol. Although there is some in Donetsk region as well. Okay, and the destiny of that third corps, they've been some time. Do we see it anywhere? Where are they? We see them. We're not saying where do we see them yet officially, but and we also know where they are, and we know that they've been somewhat torn between different parts of the front, but we know where they are and where they go and what are they trying to do. All right. We have been live for 15 minutes, have a little more time. Let's discuss other news, not less interesting. You heard that Pentagon made a statement via their representative that they supplied everything that Ukraine needs for the offensive on the southern front. And Ukraine's side did not object to that statement, right? Does it mean that among the means given to Ukraine's side, there are some tools that we don't realize if they even got to the front yet, but perhaps things that people are talking about, like ATACMS missiles and other equipment. Mark, we'll see very soon. Russian army will feel that very soon, and it will be visible in a shortest time frame. There is no reason for guesstimating here. Just wait a couple days and see what news will be bringing from the front. It'll be better data. Okay. Another thing came around as news. New York Times published that. We'll bring it up on the screen for those who are watching us. Today in Geneva, I sent you a link to that. They started discussing biolabs. Again, we translated that in a translating tool so that people speaking Russian can understand that. Baseless statements by Russia about secret biological weapon of United States continue to be discussed. So there was a discussion in Geneva. A certain commission reviewed Russian claims that there are biolabs on the territory of Ukraine, that America is devising something there. I'm not quite sure what are the means of transportation, mice, bats, or whatever else. But this theme is being pumped, definitely being pumped by Russian side, and they're connecting their usual mouthpieces to talk about Putin's interests. And they're talking that, well, we have not found anything nuclear in Ukraine besides the power plants, but biological weapon is still an issue and it has not been put to bed. So they are pumping that, supported by Kremlin, and maybe it'll reach even the agenda of the Security Council in the United Nations. What can be answered in this regard? What can one say here? The ideology of Putin's regime, we want to be just like United States, right? Yeah, they basically stylizing themselves to deceased secretary. Yeah, Colin Powell, exactly. Remember that speech? Here I have a sample. Yes, so that's exactly what they're trying to do. And they're basically, the whole war is their attempt to answer them that sacral question, why do states can and we cannot? Why is it allowed for them and not allowed for us? So they're trying to display exactly that behavior. And they're still pushing for bilateral negotiations, that we still have open communication lines, and at the same time they're pushing and they're trying to make America to discuss that matter with them. At the same time, they're also accusing America of one of the most serious crimes in today's world. America is a signatory on non-proliferation of biological and bacteriological weapons. So all these commissions, all these research that is done in Russian claims, Russia does support that there was no evidence presented. So that idiocy of that situation is hanging by a thread, that a permanent fixture in the Security Council of the United Nations with the right of veto is behaving this way. Everybody understands he's a maniac who's covered in blood and keeps killing children, but they still have to somehow address that. And the world system that we have now fails to do anything with that maniac, and it needs changing. But for now, it still allows that maniac to throw these accusations. It is something that even the smaller level regional court would not take. creation of biolab without any materials, any proof. Or, even if you come and bring in a village criminal case that somebody's brewing illegal alcohol, you at least need to bring and present the still or any proof. They're not. And they're using these cracks in the international community. And I'm waiting for the international community to finally get tired of that, and they'll finally throw that Putin's criminal regime out of all these orgs. Just grab them by the neck and throw the hell out of International Nuclear Commission and other international organizations, so that maniacs such as Putin would not be able to continue these shenanigans and abuse in the international format. And those Americans who still remember how it was during the USSR times, they're actually comparing that it was much more responsible. The USSR was, of course, also maniacs, and they wanted to capture the whole world, but at least they had the rules of the game. And yeah, there was ideology, and they had to fulfill their certain ideology and to follow the rules. Exactly. So there was some order to that, and the politicians were way more responsible that one could negotiate with. So here we are at the times when USSR is compared to Putin's regime in a more favorable light. So all that system, I'll just throw it in the fire pit and reformat it in a way that it actually could work and fulfill its goals. Because since 24th of February this year, a whole group of international tools is still failing and needs reform. Because with every of these accusations that Russia throws, that there are biological labs, well, if you do know of them, show them, bring international people. And there was another cosplay here that Russia did, that they have some communicators from Tuva region, so they're speaking Tuvian language, and people do not. In Ukraine, even while intercepting, has no way to translate that language. So that's like Navajo back in World War II, kinda, I guess. Do you have your own Tuva people who can translate the intercepts if they exist in that language? This is crazy. We don't. No, we don't have our own. I haven't heard those, but we have our own version of Navajo, I guess. We have the Zakarpattia people who have a very interesting mix of Hungarian, West Ukrainian, and other languages too. So we could add to that news, but otherwise, yeah, this one is a funny one. Another news is about Liz Truss, that she is leading the Conservative Party in Britain, and in some ways, she's more radical than Johnson. She was Minister of Foreign Affairs, and we do know her position. Her statements at times were more radical than Johnson's. And, Russians were so happy to see Johnson go, and now they got Liz Truss. So that doubling effect, in a way, which probably will be a difficult situation for Russia, which will not alleviate anything for them. So they were happy for a second, and then I think they'll feel Liz pretty soon, because she really has not much maneuver option on the internal questions, but on the external, she'll probably concentrate her efforts on helping Ukraine and that war. And we don't know if she'll be officially re-elected when the election comes, but in the interim term, she already stated that she will be continuing the line of support to Kiev. Any comments that you want to bring here? I like her for a different reason. She's the only, I think she's the only well-known Western politician who had a strategic vision. Maybe more of them have it, but she was the one who spoke up, I think back in April. And I wrote an article in response to her statement back then. She says that the countries, such as Russia and China, we in the West made a strategic mistake that we thought, when we thought the geoeconomy will change geopolitics. We gave these people access to Western technology, to Western credit, to help programs, and they used them against us. We were naive. We believed that economic changes might change the structure of society. It did not work like that. It is like National Socialism, a mix of right politics and left economy. And the economy, politics in Russia is crazy, economy is corrupting the West. So she's an outstanding one in this regard. I don't know if there are other Western politicians who claimed and supported that vision, that world view needs to change a little, and world order of countries getting involved in the world negotiations and economic arena need to recalibrate their approach to countries like China, like Russia, like Iran, because there is a set of regimes that are precluding this world from advancing, that continue being thorns in the world civilization side. And something needs to be done, either economically or by means of sanctions. And one can say that Britain has somewhat limited resources, but I suspect they're sharing their influence areas with the United States, or separating rather, that it seems like Northern Europe and Eastern Europe is definitely an area of attention for Britain, which is good for us. And, like Boris Johnson was compared with Churchill, Liz Truss is now being compared with Margaret Thatcher. That's an easy comparison, right? That's kind of on the surface. True. We'll see how she will show herself as a politician in time. But this is a very good situation for Ukraine. И тот сказал, что поддержка никуда не денется. Это же Liz Truss сказала. Первая, кому она позвонит, она же говорит. Liz Truss also said that she would call Zelensky and confirm that support is still going. So this is a good development. All right. See, we usually discuss sanctions here, and some people are working and not talking like us. Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs actually is also doing sanctions, and they recently sanctioned Sean Penn and Ben Stiller. So as in one movie, they said, so what will Chicago office do in this regard? See, I did not meet Stiller when he was visiting the office. I was in a different location. But I saw Sean three or four times when he was visiting, including the day of the beginning of war. So he was there on the 24th? Yeah, he was there on the 24th of February in the hall with press, where President and then Michael Podolyak and myself were making our statements and press conferences. And I do like American show Friends, and he knows them all, or many of them anyway. I actually added a joke from Friends in our conversation, which he appreciated. He seemed to be very sincere, very open person, and he was filming something about our soldiers and the war, and he is doing a lot to support. And with all his support, he's also a very willful person. So I suspect that he may need to go to psychologist help for half a year to survive Russian sanctions, but we'll tell him, Sean, hang on, you will survive. It is difficult, we understand. It is very difficult to survive through sanctions that Putin's regime put on you. Yeah, I don't know. Do they lack in the sense of humor compartment? I understand that sometimes they grab Ukrainian names and put claim to be foreign agents, like Gordon, journalist, although he's Ukrainian. But here they grab American actors and they add them to their lists. Yeah, I think they're doing it for their own people. They're showing, see, we're not afraid of anybody. We'll throw Hollywood people onto the sanctions list here in Russia. You know, in Russia, in Russian side of the world, they do think that actor is nothing and nobody. That it is very not serious. Yeah, it's basically a paid person who will dance and do whatever you tell him or her to do. Unlike in the Western world, where actors are treated with are actually notable persons in the society who go through a pretty serious preparation. I do have an actor's hobby myself, and you go through a very serious psychological training to be able to play certain roles. And on the West, very often actors do become significant figures. They become peace ambassadors of United Nations. They become active figures, public figures. You know, even in case of opposition to Trump just a few years in America, they played a very significant role when the whole Hollywood united against that president. So they do have some weight. And this is a sort of a corporate attitude. It's not even about Penn and Stiller personal persons. It's more of a corporate issue there, because Hollywood is millions of dollars. Influence. We talked about Angelina Jolie, remember? You did not meet her, right? No. I miss her when she visited. Sorry, I derailed your line of thought. Yeah. So what I wanted to say is that people who are fighting wars smart, they would separate population of this country from politicians of this country. They would separate actors from politicians and from military leaders. You know, there is a Caucasus saying that a warrior is the one who knows his enemy, who knows whom to attack, not the one who knows how to fight. So yeah, I think they're picking up another fight that they cannot win. Olexiy, there is a question here in chat. They keep asking and asking and asking. I think it just keeps bubbling up. I need to ask you about, I don't realize what it's about. It's about some women in army in service in Ukraine. Yeah, I already addressed that. This is a Russian information injection campaign. Anna Mahler, our second in command in the central command and the military command, she already made a statement to that yes, women do serve in our military, and no, we will not limit their ability to leave the country if they want to. If you are on record with your conscription office, it doesn't affect your ability to leave the country. The country government does need to know the resources. We need to know how many people are in each area and how many people can we rely upon having available in each area. This is not about imminent plans to conscribe and call everybody to the front. And I'm tired of that theme being bubbling up every time and again. Hanna Mahler, she's a woman herself. She explained everything in detail in her response to these questions. Yet these people read something in some obscure Telegram channels funded by Putin's regime, and then they start screaming bloody murder. All right.
Смотри, ну ладно, еще один сделаем одолжение такое, я не знаю, что-то обсуждать, особенно тебе, но Kadyrov...
Another topic we want to address today is Kadyrov, the leader of Chechnya. He is playing his game, and he's saying that he's been in power for 15 years in Chechnya, and he's been a little too long there, and there are now rumors floating around that maybe he's considering maybe to retire or resign from that position. So, in a general view, his role in that conflict, the role of his troops in the conflict, did it affect his position, his value in the Russian side? Well, the role of Kadyrov is, and people in Russia understand that, is important on the internal front, inside Russia. He called himself the infantry man of Putin because he was definitely the group of soldiers and the power group that Putin could rely on. His group is definitely in opposition to KGBs and FSBs and all these special orgs in Russia, and they often go for things that those orgs do not go for, like they kidnap politicians, they assassinate politicians. So I don't see relations with Ukraine here, but I see him as a figure among those who will be figuring out and fighting it under the carpet when the situation becomes hotter. So here I would invoke Latinina principle. If you don't really understand what's going on or why is it happening, look at it from within the Russian perspective, from the internal Russian perspective. So we don't have the details why maybe he appointed as the head of the Russian Guard, or why may he leave the position of the leader of Chechnya. Look at it from the internal market in Russia, and it's their internal ways to figure certain things. It's probably a reaction to some undercarpet struggle, power struggle around Putin. It's definitely not a Ukrainian agenda. All right, Zelensky with President Macron had a conversation that lasted for about an hour and a half, and after that phone conversation, Macron stated that the only way to restore and bring safety to Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is to withdraw Russian troops from the area. Before that, Americans said that. Now France is saying the same, and United Nations people are also saying that Russian troops need to leave the nuclear plant in Zaporizhzhia. So, do you see any perspective for Moscow to continue that nuclear blackmail? It is difficult now there. According to some data, the last reactor is down on that station, and right now it works almost entirely on diesel plants and maintains itself on diesel power. And that creates a risk of Fukushima plant. How some people were explaining to me. Also, I want to make an asterisk here that our nuclear engineers, they do not have full information of what's going there. They can just in general analyze the possibilities, and they're saying that the last line that was feeding power to the station was destroyed today by Russians, and the power plant is now on the internal diesel supply to maintain cooling systems and everything. And our specialists cannot come to it because it is occupied, and the situation in general is not good. Why is it not good? It is not good because of the Russian troops there. And they're blackmailing the world by creating that nuclear threat, by not letting our repair groups to get there. That International Atomic Commission that got there for a couple hours, how much can they check? In 2 hours, did they check the power lines that supply the plant? And all these attempts to switch power and maybe redirect it to Crimea, all that is, an iffy group of experiments with certain risks. And it basically goes back to Geneva Convention that everything happening on the occupied territories is the responsibility of an aggressor, regardless if it is pertaining to schools, food, medicine, energy, So I suspect that Macron, as the person who is aware of some details of international law, he can see it from that side and say, withdraw, remove your troops from the from the nuclear station, because they're not just there. They're not just quartered there. They're also doing active military exercise. They're shelling unknown targets in the vicinity, and they're also engaging in that nuclear blackmail. So we've been for about 40 minutes live. Do you have time limits there? We can, yeah, we can ask one more question if you like. Okay, then let's not. Let's continue tomorrow. And the last announcement for today: we did send money to mother of Daniel Rak, 12-year-old guy who is selling milk, to gather some funds for prosthetic for his mom. And I did talk to Daniel, to his mom, and to their grandmother. So we transferred the money, and now we're discussing and reviewing new candidates for this week. And we'll help somebody. It's just not so easy and simple to check and verify things. So if anybody has information about new candidates, please send it over. We'll review. We have almost 400,000 watching us live. Over 130 click the like button. Subscribe to Feigin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and to the Privateer Station. And tomorrow we're doing an extreme, the usual time. Thank you. See you tomorrow. Good luck.
До встречи в эфире. Счастливо.